Philip Onyancha was a man that many entrusted with their safety. He was trusted, admired in the community that he was in, but all of this changed one fateful night in 2010 when he was arrested for the brutal murder of 18 people between 2007 and 2010. Join us as we uncover what he did, why he committed these gruesome acts, and what happened during his case.
This is Sisters in Crime, a Kenyan true crime podcast where me and my sister get to uncover some of the continent's greatest and most horrific cases and criminals. Today, we get to look into the case of Philip Onyancha, the Kenyan Vampire. But before we dive in, here's what you need to know.
In April 2010, a 9-year-old boy named Anthony Maruri went missing. This led to worry across the nation and sparked a nationwide search where authorities even offered 40,000 Kenyan shillings in regards to any information about his whereabouts. Eventually, phone data led them to a security guard named Philip. And soon after Philip was made a suspect, Anthony's body was found. Now, Philip wasn't like any other criminal that they had dealt with before. He actually confessed to the crime of killing Anthony, but also 17 other people between 2007 and 2010. After he confessed, authorities teamed up with him in the most weird collaboration of all time, where they went on a nationwide tour around Kenya to discover different places where he murdered his victims and where he left bodies. Their search began in Dagoretti Corner, where he took them to the motel rooms of where he claimed to have murdered multiple women. One of these women was named Jacqueline Missoe. Her death had previously been ruled a suicide, and in 2021, he was actually acquitted of her murder, but more on that later. So after Dagoretti Corner, Philip took the authorities to Thika, where he claimed that he murdered various sex workers in local lodgings earlier that year. And I feel like we've been talking about this together. How a lot of the time, a lot of the victims in these cases end up being sex workers because it's such an easy opportunity for these murderers. They're like a vulnerable person in society. What do you think?
I think that even if you look at like the Kilimani area, yeah, and how a bit after 9 p.m. you'll see like all these sex workers like just standing around like waiting for job opportunities, and usually you pay for service, not before you've received a service. So it's very easy for these women to just like get roped in or get taken to dark corners, into cars, into hotel rooms, and then your fate is sealed. So definitely they are very low hanging fruit. In fact, okay, this is so horrible, but if I was a serial killer and I had an urge to kill people, like it would be so easy, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
That's the messed up thing. That's what they go for. It's not that serial killers with integrity. They're going to go for low hanging fruit in the community,
yeah.
which is really sad.
How do I make my first kill?
Yeah.
With minimal
Repercussions.
repercussions. No one is gonna be looking for this person really.
And then it
risk.
shows even what the police do afterwards. It's not like
Yeah,
they've
they
not
really
really
will
gone
look-
into
yeah.
investigating what's happened to these women. They kind of just write it off because of the occupation, which is really sad.
True.
Okay, let's continue. We're on this Thika tour, and Philip is still taking the policemen around these places. And one of his Thika victims was a lady named Helen Nyambura. The police had previously believed that she died due to an epileptic episode. Later on, Philip revealed that he was part of the crowd watching as they removed her body, and this gave me chills down my spine. This man is so creepy. He's so creepy. He was just standing there, and all serial killers are creepy, but he was just there.
In the crowd, probably like peeping to see what's happening.
I'm trying to even imagine, like, he can't have been so like stone faced while all this is happening. I'm sure he was pretending like when everyone was like shocked, and he was clutching his pearls as well, looking at what he had actually done, which is so sad.
He probably just left even maybe like an hour before the cops.
Actually, like, I would love to know what was going through his head at that
Might
point.
have even been the person who tipped them off. Who knows?
That's true. So yeah, because if you're standing there watching, like, actually, we're gonna get into this because there's another victim where I want to talk about the dynamic of. Let's get back to that weird relationship that serial killers and murderers have with the victims. So in July 2009, Samuel Wanyonyi, a young boy, went missing, and the community banded together to look for this young man. And guess who was a part of the search and rescue team? Yes. It was Philip. It was. He went around helping the family find a boy where he clearly knew he had already murdered this person. And this whole time, when he was asked why he did what he did, what motive he had, all he said was, the devil made him do it. Okay, so it's clear from all these cases that Philip was a really messed up person, but we need to go back and find out who he was before 2008 to 2010. So let's get into his backstory.
Philip Onyancha was born in 1978 to his very, very loving parents. He grew up on a farm. He was a very, very smart kid, very creative. Everybody in his community really thought that he was that guy, the the breakout king. I don't know, in
When people
in
put their hopes
communities,
in,
everybody has
put their
hopes
hopes
in
in.
you because you show so much promise. So this was him. However, things took a turn for the worst when his nanny allegedly sexually assaulted him. As a kid, that can do a lot to you. You're confused, you're young, you're easily impressionable. And I think this also sets the stage for the level of manipulation that he did encounter before he began to start killing people. Yeah. So he went to high school. In Form 2, he was suspended because of assaulting and raping a fellow schoolmate. We don't know whether he actually did it, but this was the reason and the grounds for his suspension. As he continued in high school, he began to get close to one of his teachers. Her name was Elizabeth. And she'd lure him with food, like after school, like, a home cooked meal, which I think we can resonate with to some extent. I went to public school and the diet was mediocre at best. It was standard, basic food for survival. Ugali, na. In fact, my school was called Cabs for a reason. We ate so much cabbage. So you always knew what was going to be on the menu.
Yeah.
So when someone or a teacher is offering like something extra,
Yeah.
after class, you begin to feel a bit special. You begin to feel a bit endeared to this person. You feel like you're different from the other students. And if we think about school in general, think about the hold your teachers had on you.
Yeah.
We thought they were the end all be all.
I mean,
they
more
were
than
heroes.
that, even.
Hey, they're the
Heroes?
presidents. Okay.
I saw them
Overlords,
as enemies
tyrants.
at the beginning. Yeah, to dictators to be listened to at the beginning of school, and then as I grew, then they became like people to look up to. But for sure, at the beginning, it was like if you don't listen to a teacher, it was punishment. It was more extreme, of course. In Kenya, growing up, it was being beaten.
Yeah.
If you're not
I was
listening,
beaten
yeah.
till Form
So you're
4.
going to listen. It was like this kind of conditioning.
Yeah.
And whether she seemed like she took the other approach, not like punishment, but she was giving him reward and
For future, like for him to act in the future.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, she used her position of power and something that she knew she could control him with. Food, as you're saying, if it's standard every single time and it's you know what it's gonna be, and someone is giving you something more than that.
even fries.
Fries, as simple as fries, like she used that to manipulate him, which is so sad.
It's very, very sad. And we talked about like how like politicians maybe do the same thing around election times. Like they'll go to these impoverished places and hand out cash, and that's a vote in your pocket. So as you're vying, you have a budget for manipulation.
Yeah.
I mean, like when people have needs and they see that their needs can be met in like immediately, you then start to lose a sense of character because then you're willing to forego the things that you actually care about, like your values, just to be able to put food in your stomach, which is crazy.
To put food in your stomach is crazy.
Yeah, but then at the same time, that's the time we're living in, Like, if you think about things are getting worse. So I can see how he then began to form such a special relationship with this teacher, and she had other students that she was indoctrinating, like pulling them close, having that matriarch sense of power, these are my people, and then because you're under that umbrella, you feel special because you're not like the other students. People are going to the DH, you're going to the teacher's quarters.
It's true. And I wonder if she had like you know how sometimes when people are manipulative, they know who to target. They're not going to target strong-minded individuals. I wonder how much of his past she knew about. Obviously, she knew about the suspension, but I wonder
Yeah.
how much she knew to be able to use that to manipulate him. So he was already like the scene was set for him already for easy manipulation with being assaulted as a child by his nanny, and then also then turning around and doing the same to another student. Like I wonder if she knew that that was a way in for her and the other students. Because if there's other students that she was targeting, I'm wondering if they're the same type of situation as Onyancha, and if she told this one student um, what to do and to indoctrinate him into all this, how many others were indoctrinated that we don't know about? We know Onyancha and her, but if she was
We
doing
know
this with
a
other
group
people,
of students.
yeah,
Maybe they're still out there.
yeah, that's the scary
That's the
thing.
scary part.
Yeah.
Maybe they have not activated their inner serial
Oh
killer.
my gosh, if we keep going with these theories, we're gonna keep going. We're not gonna finish.
But like yeah, so she'd invite him to her quarters, they'd have a meal, and she'd do this with other students, like I said. So during these sessions, she'd teach them like occultic rituals. They'd quote unquote like, perform seances and things like that. Probably there was a Ouija board, maybe not. But yeah, they would call on spirits and all this other crazy stuff that we only see in the movies or in West Africa.
I've never seen a Ouija board in Kenya. Do we have
I'm,
them?
I'm sure we have a version.
Okay. Oh
I'm
yeah,
sure
like
there's
of bones and
of
something,
bones
or
and
from back in
shaking,
the
shaking,
day.
killer chicken, things like that.
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of things that they'd be doing. And she made them believe, or rather made him believe, that he had supernatural powers. And for him to be able to attain the level of wealth and success that was necessary for him to exist in this economy. I'm sorry. For
It's
him to
really
exist.
touching. The economy is really hitting hard.
Whether if you're hiring, I'm joking, I have a job. Yeah. So the kind of success that he would need to be able to like live a full life, and the kind of notoriety he'd need to claim 100 souls. Now 100 souls is 100 dead people. Like 1, 2, 3, 4.
100.
If you're counting yourself in that mix, you're gone already. You don't even have time to count the next person. If you think about it, that's crazy. Because we think about death sometimes so lightly, outside of our personal relationships, but for us to to tally people like to that, like it's sounding so simple, but it's really not. Yeah, so he'd have to claim 100 souls for him to be able to get the wealth and notoriety, for him to live like a really, really full life. So this was his relationship with his teacher, and he began to feel like he has powers, he can read minds, he can tell the future. Okay, to be honest, I'd pay to see the future. I don't have feeling.
You know what I'm wondering though? If I just think this is my mindset now. I don't know what his mindset was at that time. But the first thing, if I was being indoctrinated in a cult, let's just say, and hypothetically, and I was told by someone that all I need to do is gain wealth and riches to become powerful and wealthy, I would wonder why, if it's so easy, like if it's so direct and this person already knows
There's
how.
always a price.
No, why is it that the teacher, like why no one asked, how come
why
the
is she a teacher?
Yeah, why is she still a teacher? How come she hasn't attained this wealth and riches if all it takes, and she already knows, is to claim 100 souls? Like, how is she still not at the wealth if she's saying that that's how you get there, you know?
I understand.
Yeah.
And I've been watching a lot of videos about people who have gained some level of wealth by following satanic rituals or making certain sacrifices. And to be honest, there's always a price to pay. There's always a price to pay. And that price, usually the person bearing this news is not willing to pay it, you know? So, I mean, like, he already had the blueprint. He knew what he needed to do. Fast forward, he's left high school. He jumps into marriage,
Immediately.
and which is crazy because you really never know your partner. You assume you know somebody, but you're carrying their baggage. Like, you marry the baggage, and the baggage you've not even opened to see what kind of crazy is unleashed or in it, you know.
But I'm wondering, when did they meet? If he was in high school boarding with his teacher doing this cult stuff with his teacher, and then right after high school he got married, and I'm assuming that's because his high school, like most high schools in Kenya, are single sex high schools.
Yeah.
So when did he have the time to see this girl that he married and immediately gets married after high school?
I'm not surprised actually, because if you think about it, he's been assaulted already as a child, yeah, by his nanny. Then he's in this weird relationship with his teacher. God knows what happened behind those closed doors, you know? So already, like as an impressionable, and a young person, you know, he's sexually aware.
Before, yeah, he had been for
He
some
had
time.
been for some time.
Yeah.
So if you're in a same-sex school, and then all of a sudden now you're in the real world, usually it, first comes love, then there's the way things go. You find someone, you marry them as is expected by society, and yeah, they had a kid. So they had a kid, they lived their lives for I think about a year or so, and then after that they moved to Kericho. Yeah, now this is around the time where you said the police caught on to him. This is when the young boy who he had killed, it raised suspicion. All roads led to him at this time. So he was married with his kid and his wife. So he did that tour of Kenya, his bloody tour. I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah.
Showing them all these places where he had stashed bodies and committed these crimes. And his wife thought he was cheating.
His wife thought he was cheating. His wife thought he was cheating.
Imagine thinking your man is cheating, but no, he's just killing people.
That kind of, like, I feel like
He's
Onyancha's
very loyal
wife,
to you, but he's also loyal to the craft, the trade.
No, I feel like Onyancha's wife
The body
and Ted
counts.
Bundy's wife need to have a support group, because, like, where did they think
She
their
didn't
men
know.
were? Oh
She
my-
didn't know.
Yeah, you can't, like, you
Like
don't
he
suspect
left,
it.
then he left, like you said, like he went on a tour like of the entire nation. So this guy has gone point to point to point to point to point, and the babes is just like, what's going on? She doesn't know. She has
And she thought he
a
was
very
cheating.
young child. So obviously now you start to think maybe they're less desirable, or like he's moved on. Alas.
But I wonder also if it had to do with his job, because security guards are usually posted in different places. Like, if you're, especially if you're
True.
working with a security company, like that gave him the freedom to be in Thika. He tells his wife, like, he's working in Thika. He's there. He can commit all those crimes there in the motels and that he
True.
did, and then move to Dagoretti Corner to kill now the sex workers there in that area. Like, that movement, I wonder if, like, she knew it's because of his job, or if she was like, just he would leave and she just had to wonder where.
Well, like the research we've done shows that she was suspicious of his cheating. So he was gone for longer. It's safe to assume that he was gone for longer periods of time than was normal, And then obviously, if he's not disclosed the information, the police know, but Hush doesn't know. The excuses he's giving, because he didn't tell her according to the facts at that point.
Actually, I guess her hunch was kind of correct in a very twisted way, because and we'll talk about this more later on, he did actually get in trouble for raping a woman. So her hunch wasn't all the way off. It's just that it was so much worse than she ever thought it could
The
be,
plot
that anyone
kept
could ever
thickening.
think it could be.
The plot kept thickening. But I think now we know like a lot about Philip, how he grew up, how he was raised, the experiences that shaped him. I don't know if we're more empathetic towards his plight. I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell us. You can tell us in the comments. You can just like hit us up like when you watch this episode. Do you feel that the nurture aspect of the experiences that he went through absolve him from the heinous crimes that he committed? Like, he was so flawed in many ways. However, he did have so many traumatic experiences, maybe some that we have not discussed or touched on or have not been published, that alluded to, or like literally like his origin story. Like, does it matter? Does it matter how a person was raised? Does it matter like who their parents were? Does it matter the environments that they were exposed to growing up? Does that absolve them of their criminal mastermindness.
I guess even maybe not fully absolve, but does it kind of
Mitigate. That is the word
like
in law.
even do you feel a
Mitigation.
bit of empathy for or sympathy, empathy? I get those two mixed up all the
Empathy,
time.
putting yourself in someone's shoes.
Yeah.
Sympathy, feeling sorry for.
Thank you.
Either or.
Either or. Yeah, does
Yeah.
that kind of explain and do you feel it for him? Like, is there a level or threshold of trauma a person can go through before they completely break and become like a monster? Because that's
Yeah.
a
And
monster.
because of those experiences, do we then say, oh, he suffered? The government should have done better. Serikali.
Serikali.
Serikali. Haikusaidia.
On the other side, playing devil's advocate, also people who are in a different thought pattern of what if like other people have gone through a lot of traumatic and some would argue more traumatic. We don't know everything about Onyancha's trauma, the things that weren't public knowledge, but a lot of people have gone through a lot of traumatizing times and did not end up being, literal vampires.
So I guess we're about to find out.
Okay.
Because despite his trauma and everything that went on in his life, how he was raised, his wife, maybe having a child changed him. I don't know. Maybe that's the reason he chose to fess up, because now he has more to lose. Who knows? Because who confesses to murder like at first instance? Like, it was me.
And 18 more. And 17 more.
And 17 more. And I'll show you where they were placed.
Yeah.
I'll show you where I did it. Yeah. So I guess now we just hear how the trial went.
So now let's get into the court cases of Philip Onyancha. And I said cases because there is multiple. And I'm going to be heavily leaning on Sophie for this next part because she is actually a lawyer.
Not advocate, a lawyer. I went to law school. But I know some things about some things.
You know some things about some things. Okay, let's get into them things. So even though Philip confessed, the police didn't actually have enough evidence to take him to trial. So he wasn't charged with murder. And this was because of two reasons. And as I mentioned, the first one was because they didn't have enough evidence. And the second one was actually because of an unreliable witness. So they couldn't charge him. And I'm remembering that time when all this was happening and they televised the tour that he took the Kenyan police on, showing the different locations. And I remember seeing him not in handcuffs. He's just kind of showing them. They were walking through a swamp. He picked up a shoe and said, this is the shoe of one of his victims. And the police and the media are all there. And it just seemed so strange that, first of all, he's just walking around free, no handcuffs. But second, how I was wondering, how do they know that this is the shoe of one of the victims? Like, it was just a shoe in a swamp. And
They don't know.
They can't know. Is that the insufficient evidence that they were...
Yeah. Because usually before a person is convicted, you have to prove that they committed the crime beyond reasonable doubt. Like not just you've decided or you know that they've done it and this is sufficient, but beyond that, like we are sure. Because at the end of the day, everybody is innocent until proven guilty. Number one. Number two, these are lives, and he could also be a crazy guy.
Just taking them and saying he did these things.
Or he might have even had the story in a bar.
Yeah.
And he has all this information because he overheard someone else saying.
Gosh, and the crazy aspect is so real because there's I have a theory that we'll talk about later, but I do think that if we're unsure about many things, and I feel like he did commit these crimes, these 18 murders, because of the level that he knew which victim died where. That's an aspect of it. But I also think that he was unhinged. Like there was something not right in his head. I don't want to blame it all on being crazy. Because I think to some extent there is an element of just like a bit of evilness, because even he's a grown man, but we'll deal with those theories. He
was dealing with the devil. He passed unhinged. You're like unhinged. It's more than that. It's more than that. If we call people unhinged all the time on the internet.
But they're not
18 people or take the police on a joyride around the country, showcasing them the spots that he committed his murders or
unhinged
where the
vibes.
bodies
It's one of my favorite words.
I know.
Unhinged. Oh wow, did I say that much? Okay, so other than the lack of sufficient evidence and unreliable witnesses, the prosecutors didn't have enough because remember some of the murders appeared to be suicides, and so this left a lot of doubt in their minds, and he wasn't able to be um, convicted of these crimes or even charged. So thankfully, Philip is actually locked up. He is serving a 10-year sentence in Kamiti Maximum Prison. And during his trial, it was revealed that he had two accomplices, Douglas Obiero and Tobias Nyabuhanga.
Congrats on not butchering those
I
names.
struggle with names sometimes, Sophie knows, but I'm trying. So even though he confessed to 18 murders, Philip actually didn't go down without a fight with the assault and rape case. So actually, his first trial was a mistrial, and that's because the police had insufficient evidence and the trial was thrown out. And maybe Sophie, you can tell us a bit more about what goes into a mistrial and how that happens.
So for mistrials, I usually attributed to procedural impropriety.
Wow,
Like
that's a big word.
procedure improper, procedural impropriety.
Procedure,
It- the
improper procedure.
procedures were not followed as they should have been. Let me be very layman because I was in law school 4 years ago. But yeah, so basically, if there's any form of misconduct on behalf or on the part of either the prosecution, witnesses, in other jurisdictions, the jury, we watch a lot of Law and Order and all that, yeah, where someone might have ended up being compromised. Any fault in the procedure can lead to a mistrial. And any party related to that procedure and what's expected to them or expected of them based on the process. So it literally it's not easy to get someone convicted. It's not easy.
That's how they say guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah. So so you have to proof of evidence beyond reasonable doubt.
Okay.
So by the time we're talking about they doubted all these doubts. Yeah.
Okay. I know who to call if I need to hide some evidence or get a mistrial.
And I know
I'm
who
not
I'll
committing
call.
crimes. All right. So that's what happened with his first trial, but in 2018 he was actually convicted at his second trial of assault and rape and is serving his 10 years. Now, even though now he went to prison for that crime, he also had more court cases lining up. And so in 2021, he was acquitted of the murder of Jacqueline Messoy because her death was ruled a suicide. So he had let's count the cases. There was the first time he couldn't be charged, he didn't go to court. The second time, they had a different case, assault and rape, and he had a mistrial. And then the third time, he was finally convicted. And then his fourth time was the court case that was acquitted for Jacqueline Messoy. I hope we're staying together now.
We are together.
All right. So actually, right now, as he serves his time in prison in Kamiti Maximum, he has two other court cases pending aside from the three that he's already been through. And he pleaded not guilty to both of them. He's yet to serve time for his 18 gruesome murders that took place in 2007 to 2010. And I still can't believe that Onyancha is known as the biggest, like our main serial killer in Kenya.
Vampire.
That was the first time so many people were hearing about serial killers. Everything was televised from the tour all the way up to the court cases and even his time in Kamiti. Like you can watch videos about what he's doing in prison. And yet, even though that's his title, like we know him as the Kenyan Vampire, Kenya's biggest serial killer, still he is not serving any time for any of the murders. And I just think that's so insane.
But it's all alleged.
We will get into that in the theories. And we want to hear your theories and we're going to tell you our theories.
So this is the part where we would really, really love your input, your advice, your comments. Not advice, because he is the one who needs legal advice because as soon as he gets out of prison, there's going to be court cases waiting for him. And I hope prosecution office of the DPP is waiting for him and has people hard at work making sure that he's convicted as soon as he sees the light of day, making sure that he stays in prison. However, we've been thinking about what to name our audience. We actually came up with it during our feature on the Banter of a Branch podcast. And we're like, you guys are going to be our siblings because this is Sisters in Crime. So, yeah, we're siblings in crime. So, our siblings, our sibs. And I think that works. So we're gonna get into theories. Obviously, you've heard the facts. You know what happened during the court case. You know what happened, how he lived his life, his relationship with his wife. Feel free to give us additional information, add to the story. Maybe we might even tour a committee, give an interview. I'd be so willing. Let me tell you, I'd be so willing to talk to him. But yeah, our theories on basically why he did what he did. So some people attribute it to the, and I quote, orange-sized tumor that grew at the back of his head. So thing is, this orange-sized tumor appeared just as he was getting married. I don't know if it was an accumulation of souls. Like, because
it's like the
yeah, it keeps growing, it keeps growing.
The worse he gets, the bigger the tumor got.
You know, like in Game of Thrones. You don't watch Game of Thrones.
I did watch Game of Thrones.
So Game of Thrones, when the Dothraki, every time they make a kill or get subdued in battle, they have to cut their hair. So the hair grows long. The longer the hair, the more muscular, the more capable the man of protecting you, your household, and slaying other communities around you. So for him, this tumor, people think that it was the reason behind his obsession with killing people. Personally, I think it is the devil. Because he did mention the devil made me do it a couple of times during the tour with the police, during his court case, not before the court case, when he was confessing to these murders, he claimed that the devil made him do it. So I think that a tumor, it could be supernatural. I don't know. It might be like harnessing some spirits over there.
Yes, a lot of Kenyans will believe that is what the tumor was was made of, the souls that he took.
Yeah, because it's not been taken out. I mean, he survived with it for so long.
I think, like, if we get into what happens when people have these tumors, like, if it's in his head and if it appeared, like, it was visible by the time he was getting married, then I think it was growing before that as well.
Under the surface.
Yeah, under the surface before you could see it. And even like a small amount of pressure on your brain can also affect the way you behave. And if the tumor was growing and pressing on a certain aspect of his brain, maybe his critical thinking was impaired or whichever part of the brain was being affected, because you've heard of those cases where people start to act out of the norm. They're doing things that they can't rationalize, that they've never done before in their life. They're acting different. They're unable to do certain tasks the way they could do them before. And then it's because like a tumor was found in the brain. So I'm wondering if it was appearing by that time, how long it had been there for, how much it had affected him from even maybe high school or before that, or just, we don't, like, you know, maybe that was a big aspect. And if you have a picture, I hope we can put one up on the screen of the tumor, because you can see it in his pictures. Was it in the back of his head or the front of his head, or did he have two?
It was not at the back.
We'll have the back. It was at the back?
On his head. It was
on his head, pressing against his brain. So I wonder what part of the brain that it was affecting and pushing on that could have led him to do this.
And maybe if you're watching this and you have some form of medical expertise, you can let us know what the effects of tumors are with regards to not just the brain, but the brain, and then like normal human functions like character. If you have some tips, not tips, if you have some knowledge, feel free to share, please. Let us know.
Yeah. And even if maybe the tumor, so this is my favorite theory out of all of the theories, just because like it's so obviously there. The tumor is in, like, you can see the bulge in all the pictures that are there of Onyancha. And if the tumor could have been the reason maybe he committed these crimes, what if we go the other direction and the tumor is the reason he maybe did not commit these crimes but thought he did? Like yeah, like that was the reason maybe he was insane. And that's why they couldn't come up with enough evidence. And I don't know about this one because I hate to toy with the idea that he
was
could
just
have been
crazy.
innocent of those crimes, but maybe he was just crazy because of this tumor. An orange sized tumor is very specific. Like
Very orange sized.
that's a big tumor. And I don't know how much that could have impacted either not having done it or having committed the crime.
Next theory.
Yeah, the next one. That one is a lot. The next theory I think we should talk about is the discussion on mental illness. And I want to preface that by saying I don't think that we want to talk about. There's a lot of prejudice and stigma around the word
illness.
Melton from Love Is Blind. Mental illness in Kenya, and I think it's right that we just say that mental illness is not the reason people would commit it could be a reason, but not everyone who suffers from mental illness is capable of these things, and
Or
the stigma
prone to.
or prone to, and the stigma around mental illness in Kenya should really change, and it is starting to change
Yeah.
slowly by slowly. So a lot of people thought that maybe he is schizophrenic, and that is the reason why one time he was confessing to all his crimes, and then the next, when he was on trial, he denied the crimes because maybe he was dealing with schizophrenia at the time.
But
Yeah.
he was examined by medical professionals and cleared of schizophrenia. So no, he is not.
I wanted to say something. Say it.
Would say no, he's not crazy. Cut that out. But no, he is not mentally ill as far as medics have confirmed, and they have examined him to be able to come to terms with that fact. So he cannot use it as a defense, and hopefully the 2 cases and 2 charges that he has coming up will stick.
Okay.
And not because he is crazy.
I want to talk about your theories and my theories now, because these are the very popular ones, and there is so many theories just because, again, this case was viral in a time when I don't think virality was even.
Where were you? I was in
thing.
class 6.
In 2010.
Oh, yeah.
I was in
No,
class
I was in
6.
class for 1.
You're in Form 1. Yeah, I was in class 6, and going viral wasn't a thing. I want to look back. The things that were viral in those times were like Beats by Dre.
Yeah, and then that was around the time. Oh no, that was 3 years later. I was going to see the Westgate.
Oh no. That was later. But that was like virality wasn't really a thing, and this case went viral.
It got media coverage.
It got a lot of media coverage.
Anything anybody was talking about, like literally, we had the story, and you could see this guy in your dreams.
Yeah. I remember even there was a lot of people who, like in school, and this was so sad because Kenyan names, like family names are so repeated. But everyone called Onyancha at that time was like only going by their first name, just because of how much,
Crazy
how
the
much
story
the
was.
story got traction and how everyone was talking about it.
Yeah, he was killing them and drinking their blood. That's wild.
Yeah. So my theory is that other than the tumor, I think that he could have been under some kind of trance when he committed these crimes. And at the time that he was doing them, he knew what he was doing, maybe, and he was like in this, how do we like a spiritual trance, because I've heard about people talking about they were aware in their heads of what they're doing,
but then they have blackouts,
and they have no control over what their body was doing. And I think that then later on, when reality hit, he came to his senses and he was like, I don't want to go to prison for all of these things, and maybe the spiritual trance was over, however it can be explained. Because, and I think this is the case because of the 180 degrees turn he made when he went to prison. The interviews I saw of him after, like when he was in committee, and the ones before are so different. He was worlds apart. When they were interviewing him the first time, and when he was taking the police on the tour, there was this like almost
dead look.
Yeah, it's like his eyes are open, but no one's home. And
Knock, knock, knock.
no one was home.
No one is home.
And then later on in his interviews when he was in committee, he was reading the Bible. He seemed very calm,
Found
speaking
Jesus.
very composed. And I just think that there is something that we can't explain there spiritually that happened. Because to my knowledge, at the time when he was in committee, the tumor hadn't been removed. So that just took away from my theory that the tumor was causing him to do all these things beforehand.
It also could have, okay, according, my theory is that the situation with his teacher was super impactful. Although he did retract his statement about the teacher telling him the 100 souls would gain him wealth when he reported it to the police, because she was questioned and he was like, oh, I'm sorry, she didn't say that. Like, oops. So, but then I do feel like he did interact with very satanic
Occults.
environment. Like, I don't know, like, yeah, the spirits. I feel like he did have that encounter because, like I mentioned, like I watch a lot of these videos of casting out demons for South African and Nigerian pastors. It's called, what is it called?
African and
Christian
Nigerian
No,
partners.
when someone casts out demons, it's called
It's not like what's it called? An exorcism?
not an it's like an exorcism.
But the ones they do in church where like
It's not a revival.
revival. Is it like when you turn on your
I know
TV and
the
scroll
word,
through TV
but
stations?
it's when, because okay, my belief about spirituality is we are, okay, obviously we're spiritual beings and we could be inhabited by different spiritual beings, whether good or bad. Yeah, so it's possible for me as Sophie, let's say, to inhabit, and I don't know if this is the place, but like, let's say the spirit of Jezebel. Yeah, Jezebel is one of the spirits that usually, like,
we talk about.
Yeah, not talk about, but like it she or it causes people to sin sexually, like sexual immorality.
Oh,
So it's
wasn't
like
she in
spiritual
the Bible?
sexual
She
immorality.
was
Not that Jezebel, but it could be the
Oh, I
spirit of
thought
her.
because she was so evil, like back in that day, and she was like, no.
I don't know if there's a correlation, but the videos I've seen, they call it Jezebel. So I think there was a possibility that he was inhabited, or he allowed himself to be a vessel for evil spirits. And being spiritual beings, it's possible for now them to take over at different times, cause you to have different habits and characteristics. So I think for him, high school was that gate that he invited them and said, come guys, come. And then he had access to different, for example, if he's learned how to do satanic rituals, he'll have access to those tools, because there are always tools for these things, whether it's the bones or the chickens or the whatever. And then now once he was imprisoned, now he has no access to a lot of these elements. Me, that's what I think. And I think that those spirits are the ones that caused him to, like, allowing yourself to participate in satanic rituals. By the time you're participating, they're participating in you as well, in my opinion. So you can't just tell them, be gone, get out. They are with you, you're together.
But now he was no longer useful behind bars.
Not necessarily useful, but he was not in an environment that would allow for these things to flourish.
Okay.
Maybe he just found Jesus. Maybe we all find Jesus.
If you take, that's actually really like true that could have been the way things happen. Even if we were going to look at it from a different perspective, from the if we move away from the spiritual perspective, it could have been a combination of all the things that we've talked about. It could have been from the trauma to the tumor to the mental illness and the problems that he had, to all of that culminating and then being an impressionable youth, being told that if he killed people with all these things aligned, like it was the perfect stage for him to then believe that that's what he needed to do in life.
He was just evil.
Yeah.
So people can be born evil, I think.
Maybe, we never know. We'll never know actually what exactly caused him to do this. But I think that we have really taken a look into like each aspect of what it could be that's caused him to do this. And I want us to close up by just giving our final thoughts on everything, and then we can close out.
I hope he stays locked up for good.
Yeah.
You do the crime, do the time. Karma, dunia rangi rangile, asiyefunza na mamaye.
Hufunzwa na ulimwengu.
And this is the world we are living in right now. We don't, in this economy, we cannot afford to be shaking in our boots. Because this guy, the economy is the cornerstone of this conversation, and it will always be.
Yeah.
But I really do think that there are a lot of theories out there, and we'd love to hear from you guys.
And if there's any updates from this case, because it's an ongoing thing, obviously, because he has more cases coming up, you can check out any updates that we'll do on our social media pages at Sisters in Crime KE. And you can also go and check out our TikTok, our Instagram, any social media platform that there is, we will be on it. And make sure you stay subscribed to the podcast on Spotify and all streaming platforms, and on YouTube, so that you can watch all our upcoming episodes.
So now that you're our siblings, we'll say goodbye, but not for long. We love you so much for having tuned into this first episode. We hope you stay. We hope you tell people to tell people to tell people. Where you feel like some of the facts, like you have some more information to add, like interact with us, please. We are true crime baddies. We love to talk about different crimes, and if you have any ideas of crazy cases that we can showcase in our next episode, we'd be more than happy to hear from you.
Yes. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We love you so much. Bye.